This page was created to teach Black history. Unfortunately, the American educational system was designed to exclude our real historical account, so we are here to dismantle it. It's time to enlighten those of us who have been kept in the dark. I am a Black man who didn't know enough about my own history, so I began to dig deeper and do my own research. Black history is American history, so I want people of all races and cultures to join together to learn our history as one. Here, I will share all of my findings. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to Teaching Black History. The story of William Wells Brown. William was born into slavery in 1814 near Lexington, Kentucky, where his mother Elizabeth was a slave and of Native American and Black ancestry. She was held by Dr. John Young and had 7 children, each by different fathers. In addition to William, his father was George W. Higgins, a white planter. Williams was sold several times before he was 20 years old. Williams spent the majority of his youth in St. Louis. His masters hired him out to work on steamboats on the Missouri River. Then a major for steamships and the slave trade, his work allowed him to see many new places. In 1833, he and his mother escaped together across the Mississippi River, but they were captured in Illinois. In 1834, Brown made a second escape attempt, successfully slipping away from a steamboat when it docked in Cincinnati, Ohio, a free state. In freedom, he took the names of Wells Brown, a Quaker friend who helped him after his escape by providing food, clothes, and some money. He learned to read and write and eagerly sought more education, reading extensively to make up for what he had been deprived. Around this time, he was hired by Elijah Parrish and worked with the famed abolitionist in his printing office. During his first year of freedom in 1834, Brown at age 20 married Elizabeth Schooner. They had 2 daughters who survived to adulthood. William and Elizabeth later became estranged. In 1851, Elizabeth died in the United States. Brown had been in England since 1849 with their daughters lecturing on an abolitionist circuit. After his freedom was purchased in 1854 by a British couple, Brown returned with his daughters to the U.S., settling in Boston. On April 12, 1860, the 44-year-old Brown married again to 25-year-old Anna Elizabeth Gray in Boston. From 1836 to about 1845, Brown made his home in Buffalo, New York, where he worked as a steamboat man on Lake Erie. He helped many fugitive slaves gain their freedom by hiding them on the steamboat to take them to Buffalo or Detroit, Michigan, or across the lake to Canada. He later wrote that during the 7-month period of time from May to December 1842, he had helped 69 fugitives reach Canada. Brown became active in the abolitionist movement in Buffalo by joining several anti-slavery societies and the Negro Convention movement. Brown's work in the anti-slavery societies often included public speaking, and he frequently used music as part of his performance. Brown's use of music in his speeches emphasizes music's role in the anti-slavery movement of the 1840s. Brown also organized a temperance society, which quickly gained 500 members. At the time, there were only 700 Black people living in Buffalo. In 1849, Brown left the United States with his young daughters to travel in the British Isles to lecture against slavery. He wanted them to gain the education he had been denied. He was also traveling that year as a representative of the U.S. at the International Peace Congress in Paris. Given passage of the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850 in the U.S., which increased penalties and more severely enforced capture of fugitive slaves, he chose to stay in England until 1854. That year, his freedom was purchased by British friends. As a highly visible public figure in the U.S., he was at risk for capture as a fugitive and re-enslavement. Slave catchers were paid high bounties to return slaves to their owners, and the new law required enforcement, even by free states and their citizens, although many resisted. After his return to the U.S., Brown gave lectures for the abolitionist movement in New York and Massachusetts. He soon focused on anti-slavery efforts. His speeches expressed his belief in the power of moral and the importance of nonviolence. He often attacked the supposed American ideal of democracy and the use of religion to promote submissiveness among slaves. Brown constantly refuted the idea of black inferiority. Due to his reputation as a powerful lecturer, Brown was invited to the National Convention of Colored Citizens, where he met other prominent abolitionists. When the Liberty Party formed, he chose to remain independent, believing that the abolitionist movement should avoid becoming entrenched in politics. In 1847, he published his memoir, The Narrative of William W. Brown, a Fugitive Slave, written by himself, which became a bestseller across the United States, second only to Frederick Douglass' slave narrative memoir. Most scholars agree that Brown is also the first published African-American playwright. Brown stayed abroad until 1854. Passage of the 1850 Fugitive Slave Law had increased his risk of capture, even in the free states. Brown returned to the United States in 1854. He quickly rejoined the anti-slavery lecture circuit. Brown became a proponent of African-American immigration to Haiti, an independent black republic in the Caribbean since 1804. He decided that more militant actions were needed to help the abolitionist cause. During the American Civil War and in the decades that followed, Brown continued to publish fiction and nonfiction books, securing his reputation as one of the most prolific African-American writers of his time. He also helped recruit blacks to fight for the Union in the Civil War. While continuing to write, Brown was active in the temperance movement as a lecturer. After studying homeopathic medicine, he opened a medical practice in Boston's South End. William Wells Brown died on November 6, 1884, in Chelsea, Massachusetts, at the age of 70 years old.